So the New Testament gives us a great deal of freedom in how we conduct our charity. But the New Testament rests on the foundation of the Old, and God commanded Israel some very specific things, and we should examine the wisdom of these practices as we consider the place of charity in the economic system. First, every third year, the tithe was to go to the poor. 10%. God commanded this. The local elders were to collect it, and they were to administer it to the poor. Now, because it came every third year, this taught people to be provident. I get a handout every third year. I got to learn to make it stretch for 3 years. Now, this doesn't mean that other people couldn't come along and help you, but there was no fixed monthly check coming in that you could blow because you knew there was another one just around the corner. You were given a good sum of money, and you had to use it wisely, or it would run out. Another thing the Old Testament allowed for was indentured service. You could make yourself a servant for a limited number of years, 6 years, and while you were a servant, your master would take care of you, pay for your food, your clothing, train you, apprentice you, because he doesn't just need strong muscles, he needs mind and skills. He's going to want to make you more, he's going to invest in you to make you better, because you're part of his family and part of his business. And so you're able to gain some skills and some self-discipline, and you're taken care of for a time, and in consequence he maybe pays off your former debts, lets you depart with some good capital to start up a business. This was done in the American colonies constantly. People got their passage to the New World by indenturing themselves for short periods of time. And it was not something to despise. It was a real opportunity for people who otherwise wouldn't have one. Charity loans. The Old Testament bans interest on charity loans. If my poor friend needs help, I'm to give to him and give to him generously, and I'm not to charge any interest. Freely we've received, freely we're to give, as best we can, as opportunity allows. Now, I can't be compelled to do that by anybody. I have to do it freely because I know the circumstance, and I know the guy, and I know that he needs help, and I know that he's going to try to repay it. But every 7th year, all the charity loans were canceled. And I've got to be cool with that. I've got to be able to say, yeah, you're going to pay it back if you can, but there comes a point when I'm to write it off and give it over to God and say, that's yours, Lord. Finally, gleaning. In the Old Testament, in Israel was largely agricultural. People would leave the corners or the edges of their fields unharvested, and if they left a sheaf or some grain in the fields, they wouldn't go back and get it. They would leave it there, and then people could come in afterwards and glean, pick up the remnants, and keep it. Now, it was hard work. It's a whole lot harder to harvest the remnants than it is to harvest the main crop. And men and women and even children will get into those fields, and they might work all day long and get enough to sustain them for the next day or two and then be out in the fields again. But they were working. But isn't this people's private property? Well, ultimately it's God's property, and God said you need to do this. Now, we don't live in an agricultural community so much anymore, although it could be practiced in some places. But there are other ways of collecting recyclables, collecting stuff that no one wants anymore, other things where we can go and take the refuse, the leftovers, and we can go and do something with them and resell them, and people can earn a living that way. A lot of people who came to America 2 centuries ago did exactly this. They came and they went to the big cities and they became junk men and trash collectors, and they would sort through it and they would pick out the good stuff and fix it up or sell it off, and they would build up tidy little savings and then move on. Is it ideal? Does everybody live like a prince? No. But it allows people to work, it allows them self-respect, it teaches them saving and self-discipline, and it cares for the poor in ways that our modern welfare system most certainly does not.